explained or clarified? So we're going to review today. Is there anything as you look, you can flip through that review, what would you like more practice on? What's hard for you, Katrina?
Just like graphing stuff from a sine or cosine equation and finding the equation.
Okay, so graphing sines and cosines and also finding the equation from those?
Yeah, basically just like 7.4 and 7.5.
The last couple things we've done.
Yeah.
Okay, does that sound reasonable? Do you want to try doing these on your own at the board, or you want me to work through one or first? Maybe I'll do one with you first, and then we'll see if we can let you try one, okay? So let's see if we can graph first. And we'll say, and it's, from what the other class said, it seems to be the ones you have to factor are harder than the ones that are given to you in factored form. So I'm going to give you one that you're going to have to factor first. So let's do -3 sine of, and let's say we have 1/2 x minus pi over 8, and then plus 1. So here's where we're starting. So inside the sign, you can see it has not been factored. So that's the first thing we want to do is factor whatever's in front of the x is going to get factored out of both of these terms here. So we're going to factor out the 1/2. So this will still stay -3, still sine. Now this is going to be a 1/2. This becomes an x. When you factor out a 1/2, you're dividing by a half. And to divide by a half is to multiply by its reciprocal. So this pi over 8 is going to get multiplied by 2, and that's going to make it be pi over 4. So that's going to be a minus pi over 4. And then we still have the plus 1. So off to the side, now most of the time I'm going to ask you what's the period and the amplitude. So that's going to be part of the questions that you'll have to answer in the process of graphing it. So the period, the natural period, since we're in radians, the natural period is 2 pi. If we were in degrees, the natural period would be 360. We're going to divide that by the b, whatever was multiplying that x or what we ended up factoring out. So we're going to divide that by a half. And again, to divide by a half is to multiply by the reciprocal. So our period is going to be 4 pi. Now, I like to find what I call the critical points. This is going to be the space between tick marks. So we're going to put tick marks on our graph every fourth of a period. That's corresponding to where we would be if we were going around the unit circle. 0 pi over 2 pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi. So we're going to take the period 4 pi divided by 4, and so we're going to make tick marks every pi apart. But we can't jump in yet because we need the starting point as well. But let's get the amplitude. The amplitude is the absolute value of what we call A, the thing multiplying the sine curve. And so our amplitude is going to be 3. Now we're ready to start the actual graphing process. So this has been translated vertically how much? 1. So the normal sine curve is going to wrap around the x-axis. We say its midline is the x-axis. This is going to get moved up 1, so I like to, you don't have to do this, but I like to put in a horizontal dotted line just to use as a guide. So our curve is going to wrap around this y = 1. Now our amplitude we said was 3, so the biggest sine can ever be is 1, the smallest it can ever be is -1. That's going to get multiplied by 3, so it's going to get the biggest 3 above and 3 below the midline. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and put a dotted line to use as a guide. So that's going to be the tallest the graph ever is. Then I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3. So at -2, I'm going to put another horizontal line. And so we're going to see our graph is going to be bounded above and below by those top and bottom lines, and it's going to wrap around the midline. Now we're going to start at, it's been translated over pi over 4, so I'm going to call this pi over 4, and we said that our tick marks are going to be spaced every pi. So together this is going to tell us where to put our tick marks. Starting at pi over 4, The next tick mark, we're going to have to add pi to this. So 1 pi, which is 4/4, plus the 1/4 pi is going to make this be good. So there's our second tick mark is 5 pi over 4. Is that okay? We'll do it again. So we're going to add another pi, which is another 4/4, which is going to make that be good. And the next one will be good. And we're going to do this until we have at least 5 of them. So every fourth of a period plus we have the beginning one. So I got to go one more tick mark and adding another 4/4, 17 pi over 4. Now, a sine curve starts in the middle, whereas a cosine curve would start big. So a sine curve is going to start in the middle. That means at pi over 4, our starting x value, we're going to be in the middle of our curve, which is going to put us right there at 1. Now, a normal sine curve would go loop above, so we would go to the next high point. But this is a negative sine curve, so it's been reflected in the x. That means it's going to go to a low point first, and that means at 5 pi over 4, we're going to be down at -2. And the next tick mark over will go back to the middle. The next tick mark over will go to a high point, and the last tick mark we're going to be back in the middle. So we're going to end where we began. And then we'll connect these with a nice smooth curve, and that is one period or one cycle of a sine curve. That making sense? So we ready to do one at the board then? So I'm going to give you a cosine curve, and I'm going to change it up, but I'm still going to make it be one that you got to factor here. So let's see if we can graph. And I still want to know the period and the amplitude. So let's do y equals, we'll say, 2 cosine of, and we'll say pi over 4x plus, we'll say pi over 4, and then we'll go a -1. I'm going to pause the video here for a minute so you can be watching us do